Sure, yeah. Ames here for Boxing News TV. Pleasure to meet you. Michael, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to hear. Michael, I just wanted to know, you're highly rated within the WBO.
Yeah.
More high rated than Chris Kongo, Lewis Crocker, high rated than Conor Benn would be in his IBF rankings. Why do you think you've had less of the spotlight than your domestic rivals, yet you're higher rated than them?
You got to know somebody in this game, haven't you? I've started from the very bottom, from a small fighting city really of Portsmouth, and I've had to do things the hard way. Like I've been the B side many times before, like a couple of times before. I've fought for no money. I've came up the hard way with little publicity, and I wasn't a top amateur, which that didn't help me when I first turned pro. I wasn't a top amateur, so there's many reasons, but it just makes it even better that I'm finally where I want to be, you know?
Do you think with the path that you've had to take compared to your domestic rivals, you're better suited than them to go on further in your careers as a whole?
Yeah, I would say my experience as a professional has been obviously a lot harder than theirs, than them guys. Obviously, boxing on small hall shows and stuff like that to be able to work myself up. So I've had it harder. I've been in tougher fights than probably most of them guys, I believe, or not so much tougher fights, but I've boxed the higher caliber opponents, I would say. So yeah, I rarely lose rounds, and I rarely I'm rarely in like a tough looking fight. I make it look quite easy usually. So yeah, like the world's my oyster. Like I'll keep improving, I'll keep learning, and who knows where I can go. But I believe it's very, very far in this sport.
I think Chris has talked about, and I think you might have talked about beforehand, about this fight potentially materializing beforehand, a couple of fights before, however many fights before it was, but it didn't. What's the story about this fight not happening and it happening now?
When I found out recently, maybe he wanted to fight me a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I must have had like a title fight, but I've been in decent fights for a good few years now where he hasn't, and he had a tough time getting fights, and like I've obviously been in quite a few title fights now, and he was very inactive and very frustrated for a while. And like for me, I always want to fight the guys that have the big platforms, the guys that have a lot of hype around them, because I want to prove myself as the best welterweight in the UK. And I've been calling for big fights for quite a while. And straight after my last fight, the one name I called out in the very first interview was Chris. Mm-hmm. And then we got on somebody's live together, and there was a bit of like back and forth. It's all been respectful, to be fair, in my sort of like from my point of view. But I knew that Chris would fight me, and I've been wanting a big fight for a while, and nothing really materialised off that until my manager Lee and for MTK called me in January and was like, "Will you fight Chris in 6 weeks?" I was like, "Definitely." And then obviously the 3 extra weeks added's just been a bonus. Like two hungry, ambitious, confident lads, unbeaten lads coming to the ring and fighting each other. Like it's great. It's great for the boxing public, really.
He was last on the fight camp. He fought Luther Clay in what was built as like a good trade fight, 50-50 fight, which he came through very well. Were you impressed by that performance?
I was impressed that he got Luther Clay out of there and stopped him. I like Luther Clay. I've sparred a lot in the past, and I've got a lot of respect for him for somebody with little experience, little amateur experience, and limitations. He achieved some good stuff in boxing. Well, he has achieved some good stuff in boxing. So got a lot of respect for Luther Clay, but the win was a good win. Like it was a good win. It was impressive, like that he got him out of there. But there's two different like people. There's Luther Clay and there's Michael McKINSON, and he's in with a different kettle of fish this time. and he will notice that very early.
You mentioned about getting notice and getting about 6 weeks notice. Do you think there was a reason behind that, kind of maybe to catch you off guard with your preparations to get you in the ring as a lesser Michael McKINSON than you would normally be? You've obviously now got the extra 3 weeks, but originally it was offered at 6.
No, he probably got it on 6 weeks notice anyway, or 9 weeks now. He probably got it on 6 weeks notice. There's no excuses or anything like that. I always knew if I was to get a big opportunity, I'm not going to have a 10 weeks or what I would want anyway. That's always been in my head anyway. But after my last fight, I put on a lot of weight last summer, and when I fought Martin Harkin, it was all weight loss, and it was like a horrible camp, right? So I said to myself, I know something's big around the corner, so I'm staying fit and I'm staying healthy. Like, I was in the gym after my last fight. The week after, I've been in the gym ever since. I was running Christmas Day, New Year's Day. Like, I kept myself healthy over the Christmas period. So I only needed 6 weeks, really. You know, like, my weight wasn't high, my weight was low. Like, probably I entered this camp the lightest weight I've entered a camp probably for my last 4 or 5 fights. So everything's been pretty good. Like, in my end, it's all smiles in Team McKINSON.
Yeah. Would you think that you announce yourself with a win here? Because, I mean, talking about platform-wise, you're on the biggest platform in your career to date. You're against the fighter with probably the highest profile so far to date. So do you think to the public, the mainstream public, do you announce yourself as the best kind of welterweight domestically that we have here?
My career starts on Saturday. That's how I'm seeing it. This is my golden ticket to change my life. Like, beating Chris Kongo could open up so many great opportunities for me, which that I need. So, but that's a must win. Like, I've got to get the job done, and once I get that job done, then we can move on and talk about whoever's next. But this is my golden ticket, and my career starts on Saturday.
Yeah, if you win, you pick up that WBO global title, which should, in theory, increase your rankings in the rankings. Do you look ahead at the top, or do you look to have a bridger fight? Do you look to maybe beat your domestic rivals? What's the thought process? Of course, the thought process would be Chris Kongo first, but outside of that, where do you look at?
When I get a fight booked and I've got an opponent, I don't look anything past my opponent. I know, like, people knowing me know that I don't ever like to sit at the same level. So after beating like Chris, I would definitely like to push on the same, like, keep pushing on. Like, I don't want to be one of them guys that gets to 30 and thinks, oh, imagine if I made this move earlier on in my career and stuff like that. I'm 27 in a couple of weeks. I've been a pro 6.5 years. So that's what I'm ready for, these big fights.
Michael, I wish you all the best for the weekend.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, James. We go to Danny Flexman from SecondsOut next.
Hey, Mikey, how you doing, mate?
Danny, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. You said earlier this fight was originally talked about a couple of years ago, albeit you didn't know too much about it. Who do you think it favours more out of the two of you, that it's taking place now rather than a couple of years before?
I don't know. There's always been, like, Chris has always been a talented lad. He was a good amateur and stuff like that, whereas I've had to prove myself in boxing time and time again. But if you look at it, I've been in, like, for example, me and Chris sparred a 10-round spar 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago. He was only like 2-0. I was training for my first title fight against Ryan Martin, and we had a good solid 10 rounds. It was a good spar. But if you look at since then, look how much I've improved in my experience. Like, since then, I've fought Ryan Martin, Colin Lyons, Sam McNess, Ryan Kelly, Pavko, Veron, that Martin Harkin. Like, the list goes on. So I believe it favours me a lot more. Like that, but I actually didn't know, like, until I think Chris brought it up in an interview or a live that we had. Apparently, he wanted to fight me a few years ago. If he did, I obviously had better things on my plate at the time. But yeah, I think it favours me, and it's good that we've got two unbeaten, ambitious guys going toe to toe with each other.
And you've often struggled to get fights. Your talent and your style both put together is a nightmare for most fighters out there. Do you struggle in a similar way with sparring, or is that a lot easier to get hold of?
In the past, when I've been in camps and I want good sparring and I'm willing to like travel to good fighters to spar, they only really want, unless they're fighting a southpaw, they only really want orthodox sparring and stuff like that. It's very rare. Like, although I've sparred some good fighters over the years, it always has been a bit of a challenge to get sparring. For this camp, I've had some good sponsors that have been able to help me out so I can get sparring come to me. And that's for the first time ever. So we've had good sparring. Everything's gone amazing as far as all that's concerned.
And can you tell us any of the people you've sparred for this one, and maybe shout out the sponsors as well if they've been so helpful this time around?
Yeah, so my main sponsor is HS Building, who they actually sponsor myself to train full time and my brother to train full time. So that's we're forever blessed. And at the beginning of this camp, they had a meeting with my dad, and we've been managed to bring sparring partners in. We've had some good fighters. Sam Maxwell came down to Portsmouth. He travelled all the way down to Portsmouth for sparring me 1 week. He's fighting this weekend. Not for the British now because his opponent got injured, but good luck to Sam.
Ben Fields now, hasn't he?
Oh, is it Ben Fields? Yeah, okay. Who else? We've had Sam Gilly, who's fighting on the same show. He came down, spent like a few nights down in Portsmouth. All the best to him this weekend too. Fighting for one of my old bouts, the WBC International Silver, I think it is. Yeah. We've had Harry Scuff. You know Harry Scuff?
Yeah, the former English champion, super welter.
He's brilliant sparring for me. He was down last week, actually. I finished my sparring with him. The list goes on. We've had some really good people come and help us out. So for the first time, we haven't had to worry about sparring, like struggling to get the right sparring and stuff like that. We've had it.
Great stuff. Well, best of luck, obviously, on Saturday night. I look forward to watching it.
Brilliant. Nice one.
Cheers, mate. Take care.